We're going live. Hello, welcome to the Racist Show. I mean, Wandering Pilgrims. Um, we're trying to get through some stuff. I myself am very much a libertarian, and there's been a lot of issues having to do with collectivism lately, where libertarianism and collectivism are like really butting heads hard. And I thought it would be really cool to have a discussion with my buddy Vince here. He tends to be more on the collectivist side, but I really do think that he also understands that liberty is essential to our being, right?
Sure.
So what sparked this all off, and I'm going to blow your mind by telling you that I disagreed with the original post. Should a Jew be forced to bake a cake for a Nazi? Now that's a really, really bad argument because there's so many things loaded into that.
Extreme, yeah.
Yes, it's very extreme, and I liked what I said right off the bat. And I think I said it on a different thread that had the same original post. I said, if I sell knitted things online, should I, if someone wants to order a pentagram pair of socks? And I'm like, well, I don't do that. I'm sorry. What's the, I mean, it really does come down to being that simple. And I know with the gay wedding cake thing, there's actually more of a personal element there where the people feel like this is the shop owner making a statement directly to them. And I just want to make the statement that bigotry deserves expression. It doesn't deserve effect. What do you think about that?
I think they should advertise who they don't serve in their shop.
Well, should be forced to?
Possibly. Maybe that should be, if there's an exception, if you don't serve everybody, then you should be forced to who you don't serve. Like no shirt, no shoes, whatever. So no gay people. Put it up if you want to put it up.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I'm not willing to go there in the discussion because, I mean, you know how libertarian I am. I'm radically libertarian. So I truly do believe in the freedom of association. But I know that that's a really tough sell, and I'm not willing to make that here in this particular moment. But what I would say is I would keep it to the type of services that are rendered and how a person should have the right, like if they're providing goods or services, they should have a right to define the boundaries and limitations as to what they are and are not willing to do. And
sure.
And I'll even go the racist route and say that there's a lot of people in the world who don't believe it's right to mix races. And if a shop owner was commissioned to bake a wedding cake for a white and a black couple, or like maybe a white chick and a black dude, and they refused to do it because it went against their religious convictions. I know that's against the law. They would be sued and their lives would be ruined, but I affirm their right to do that. Now I don't agree with them, of course. I've had romantic. I've been romantically inter.
It should be up in the door though that they don't do that. Then I can choose not to go in there.
Yeah, again, though, that's still a bit of coercion, though. I mean, you're still twisting their arm to make them have...
I'm choosing not to spend my dollar with him.
Right. And you make a really good pragmatic point, but what you don't make is a good principled point as far as forcing them to do something. Pragmatically, it's good because it helps you to avoid exposure to that. But the principle there is still the same as before. You want to make them step outside of their conscience to assuage your own conscience.
No, I just want to do business with them. With a bigot.
Oh, yeah, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah. How that comes about, though? Like Yelp isn't good enough?
Is everybody on Yelp?
Well, the point is like if we really want to be like socially responsible and engaged as both a community and a society, then there's a bit of an exchange of responsibilities taking place here. Yes, business owners are responsible to do what they say and say what they do. Honesty in advertising, truth in advertising. I very much believe that that the public should hold individuals to a standard of truth. However, the way that that truth is arrived at, I think we can have a negotiation about that. And and by negotiation, I don't necessarily mean with words, I mean with business. And this is the nature of the marketplace, is the negotiation happens with actions. And so what would happen is in this modern world, because you understand technology is changing all the rules daily. In this modern world, we have such rapid access to relevant information, and we can communicate across the globe instantly. We as a people can basically subsume the government by taking over what the government does and making it irrelevant. A great example is the USDA. Standards of agriculture and everything. I think that the USDA standards are horrible. I think the idea of outlawing it's just skewed all across the board. The idea of outlawing raw milk while allowing formaldehyde and ammonia into red meat, it's ludicrous. It's obscene. It's who thinks like that? I mean, and I understand the dangers of raw milk, and I also understand the benefits of using ammonia and formaldehyde in meat, but at the same time, it shouldn't happen. Raw milk is natural. We didn't do anything to that. The meat, we're putting deadly poisons into them. So, but here's my solution. Let's not mandate any of this. How about what we have, and this will happen. You mark my words, this is going to happen. Consumer organizations. We already have an example in Consumer Reports where if you want to be a conscientious car buyer, that's the place to go. You want to check out Consumer Reports and the review of the car and what they say about it. They independently test it. I trust them a billion, trillion, infinitely more times than the government. Very much so. Because they're running a business too. Consumer Reports, they're accountable to their customers. If they're bought out by some other corporation and they give a good review to a bad product, they're going to have to pay the piper when it comes down to public review. And that's the beauty of this. We're taking a scholarly approach to culture now, where the peer review system becomes common, where it becomes in our day-to-day discourse. And so we can use these pressures, these very powerful market pressures, to get the social justice that we desire without violating the liberties that we hold so dear.
How about they have like a barcode on the door of a business, and you can like get your smartphone and go ding, and then you can get your rating.
You know what? Maybe you know what? Give them the proper incentive, and maybe they'll choose to do that. But that's the king for me right there. Is where's the choice? I have the choice not to patronize, and I understand. We can agree on in truth in marketing, in truth in advertising. We can agree on that. Like I believe in MSDS sheets. If you're using chemicals because of public health concerns, because this goes way beyond just the individual here. For example, if you got ammonia and bleach, and someone decides to mix them together to clean the lobby of a restaurant, you're going to end up with a lobby full of dead people. This is where force is legitimate. This is where force is legitimate because you're preventing violence. You're preventing unnecessary violence. And I don't want to strain this too much, because I'm not quite as libertarian as some libertarians would like me to be. But I do believe that by dialogue and cooler heads prevailing, I think that we can find not a compromise between collectivism and libertarianism, but an agreement between the two. Like, we can be both collectivists and libertarian. We just got to rack our noggins. We can't take the easy way out. It's going to take some really hard work to figure out some comprehensive solutions to really dude, we're 7 billion strong. It ain't going to be simple here on out.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to grow. I mean, this is the great filter. Have you ever heard of that?
The great filter? No, I haven't heard of it.
Well, many astrophysicists and exobiologists, people who study the possibility of life on outside of the Earth, they have postulated that one of the reasons why we don't have a universe teeming with life to the extent that it would be obvious to us is that all great civilizations face a series of filters, watershed moments that either make or break them. We are at one such moment.
You're
We
talking about
have
the Drake equation.
connectivity across this globe.
The Drake equation.
Maybe refresh me.
It's like a probability of finding technologically advanced life on a star, basically, because they
Well,
face.
sort of. I guess maybe another way to put it would be it's a way to explain the discrepancy between the optimistic results of the Drake equation and what we actually find
It's actually quite
practically.
pessimistic.
When we look up at the sky or when we listen with our radio telescope, not hearing intelligent messages. What's that?
It's actually quite pessimistic. It's like there's a probability of finding intelligent life. A certain, they're advanced enough to have radio and everything like that, and travels between stars and stuff like that. It's pretty low.
Oh, and it depends. Like I said, that's why I threw the word optimistic, because I understand there's such a huge range there. Because it's largely speculation as far as what makes life likely and how likely we are to find these conditions outside. Like the whole study on exoplanets has been revolutionized in the past decade. We used to think that exoplanets would be rare. Now we're finding that they are rarely the exception. So, I mean, that's a really great example. So the Drake equation is difficult. What I'm looking at is 13.4 billion years of history. Probably about 10 billion of it would be, nurturing for life, able for life to form, because that first couple billion years was pretty chaotic.
Yeah.
But we got a good decade of a billion years going on here, and a billion is huge. I mean, really, we're not even a flash in the pan. I mean, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. The surface of the Earth and life is right around 3.5 billion years old. But animal life is like less than a billion years old. And then you go even further on to like hominids. Holy cow, we're talking on the scale of thousands at that point. So, I mean, we're talking about huge, vast amounts of years, amount of time, huge, vast number of planets. The universe is big.
Yeah, huge.
Why don't we get a blip on the radar? Why aren't we hearing messages? And so the idea is that every great society, when it reaches this level of networking, when it reaches this level of sophistication, the factions from within tear it apart, be it through global nuclear war, be it through social justice versus libertarianism, be it through racial wars, whatever it may be. You reach critical mass at some point. And you can see this in rat colonies. There comes a point where, and human beings, their behavior is very closely to nesting rats. You see rat colonies, when they get overpopulated, they don't split like wolf packs do. They don't find some way to invade some other place like ants do. You know what rats do? They eat each other.
Yeah.
They start eating each other, and that's what we're doing right now.
And libertarianism will stop that?
Oh, absolutely not. Pure libertarianism without any altruistic movement behind it will most certainly doom us.
Yeah.
Because it'll bring us down to that Mad Max scenario.
Yeah, I think you're right. You wouldn't be saying, I'm not going to passe one sauce, I think you'd be saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, okay, here's my idea, and I think it's a pretty good one. I think, and I started out by saying that I don't think collectivism and libertarianism are mutually exclusive at all. I think what we need to understand is that they are different categories. We're confusing categories here. Libertarianism is not a positive assertion as to a direction for a culture to take. It is more than anything a safeguard against tyranny. It's a what am I looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? It's opening possibilities. It's basically holding back the hand of tyranny to give the most room possible for us to develop and grow. So this isn't an ideology to lead us into the future. It's a principle to guard our personal sanctity. Okay, so we start there with that category. You with me so far?
Sure. You're talking about the non-aggression principle and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yes. These are moral frameworks. These are moral groundings that set the stage for us to be able to build on it. And that's what collectivism is. Collectivism is the building built upon our libertarian foundation. So how can we be a because you can't have civilization without collectivism. It's a contradiction of terms at that point. So we need to be collective to a degree because that's the definition of civilization, banding together for a common purpose. By the way, quick shout out to Craig. That's the definition of a civilization, buddy boy. He said civilization is people getting together to make their lives better. Dude, I'm not gonna. I'll have a one-on-one conversation with him, but with other people involved, it's gonna be so convoluted. I lost all respect for his intellect. I really did. And I know that sounds horrible, and maybe he could gain it back, but what's that?
I said I wouldn't necessarily agree with everything he says.
Well, it's not just that. I don't think you would agree with why he says it. That's the problem. His motivation behind it is a very what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word for this where you believe that the not just that the collective owns the individual, but that the collective principles trounce individual principles. I can't remember what that's called, but that's it's an insidious form of communism. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, you got to understand, Karl Marx didn't envision Soviet Russia. Karl Marx didn't envision Soviet China at all. He saw a utopia, and I think if his vision was followed more accurately, the results would be more in keeping with what he envisioned. But that's neither here nor there. I don't think socialism is optimal anyway. I think communalism, banding together, is, and that's where I was going. So we have this libertarian set of freedoms that give us so many options, like freedom of association, for example, where you can either associate or disassociate from whomever you like, which that doesn't make sense in our pluralistic culture, but it would make perfect sense in a tribalistic culture, where each tribe, birds of a feather, you have your own tribes, and tribes negotiate with tribes on their own terms and try to, make things work out. Very similar to the way this continent was run before white man ever showed up, to be honest with you. It wasn't all peaches and cream, but I got to be honest, I really do think your average Native American had a far greater quality of life than your average modern American. I don't know. What do you think about that?
They had large cities before we did in some cases.
Oh yeah, especially down in Central and South America. The Aztec Empire was vast.
Yeah.
So I think that the problem that we come into, and this is where I wanted to go. Now, of course, Craig calls rejection of a person violence, which, you know what? I'll give that to him. Whatever. I don't really agree with it, but I can see how someone would experience it as violence. All I got to say is that an awful lot of people have been violent towards me in my life, but not that I take it to heart. It's we got to really differentiate between passive resistance and active incursion. And what I'm trying to say, what sparked me wanting to have this conversation was where it came down to the racism stuff, where you had said that we're constantly defending racists. Well, here's the cool thing. This is why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because I'm one of the only people who actually will. Go ahead. Okay. What are you gonna say?
It's not necessarily you're defending racists. I don't know if it was you or not, but post a picture of Richard Dawkins, and he's been associated with. Wasn't you, okay? But he's been associated with like neo-Nazis. Like they're showing his videos, like, yeah, and some other atheists are showing, yeah, they're up
Yeah.
against Muslims, and yeah, presumably that's not what they want, but they're being used. That's their allies, or they're being used
Right.
as
Right.
not as allies, but I don't know, as a gimmick or a selling point for these guys, and that's
Well,
not
I'm
good.
one of the few guys. Yeah, I didn't throw in much on that. I was just reading down through that earlier today because I was too focused on Craig's subthread. Um, but I can see Justin and the other libertarians in there. They aren't at all defending racists. They think racists are pieces of shit, and they want them. They just have different ways of dealing with them than you would. Me, I disagree with them. I affirm a person's right to dislike another race or to think that their race is superior, and for very simple reasons. And let me be clear. I don't think that my race is superior. Which what race am I talking about? I mean, I got so much in me. I don't see any lines of superiority. I do see negative qualities with some people groups and positive qualities with others. A lot of this has to do with more with
Sure.
culture than with genes, but I think, yes, I just said that. Yeah, a lot of this has more to do with culture than with genes, but genes do play into it as well. There's a reason why I have so many things in common with my father. I like the things that my father likes. I have my father didn't raise me, by the way. I want to make that clear. My father didn't have a part in my life until my 20s, and I'm a lot like him because of genes, not because of how I was raised, because he was raised dramatically different from me. And personality-wise, there's a lot of things that we're alike on the inside. And I see that. I see that in people groups. And you know what? What if I just don't like it? What if I just don't like it? What if I see the common traits with this group of people, and I just don't like it, and I don't like them, and I don't want nothing to do with them? I have no problem with that. I have absolutely no problem with that. In Lewiston,
You should
Maine,
advertise that.
that. But again, you want to levy this force. It's like, just let people be people is my philosophy. Now let me tell you, in Lewiston, Maine. Oh, geez. Hold on just a second. I got a knock at the door. I got to mute myself. Small pause. Let's pause for a brief.
I'll make funny faces or something. Entertain the viewers.
All right, I'm back. Yeah, I just had the Knights company come over and stuff. They're fine and everything. I guess she's fine if she wakes. If she's already awake. So yeah, you guys can do whatever. Have fun with my daughter. Is a good friend of mine with her kids. So anyway, sorry about that small little interlude. So okay, with racism and all that stuff, Lewiston. When I was a kid, there was exactly 2 black families in Lewiston. We had the Jacksons, and I can't remember the other one, but there were very few. I mean, there's less than 20 of them. And Maine's never been a particularly racist state. I mean, there's racism everywhere, and there's some people that just don't like black people. There's plenty of black people who just don't like white people. You don't see much of it in public. You don't see many consequences for it. And by and large, most of it's just kept under the vest. If someone's a racist, they keep to themselves. In fact, a lot of the really racist people are super nice to the people that they don't like because they don't want to be perceived as a racist, which my black buddy Pimble told me that he thinks that is the most insulting thing that he's ever felt in his life, and thinks that that's far worse than having someone burn a cross on his front yard. But I digress. So in Lewiston, we started out with like a totally white population. Well, whites are the minority in Lewiston as we speak right now. Inundated with tons of American Negroes from Boston, mainly Massachusetts, some from New York, and along with them came an influx of some Cambodians, some Hispanics, mostly Puerto Ricans and Mexicans. My Mexicans are the favorite. I worked with Mexicans at the Coster Egg Farms, and man, they're some of the awesomest dudes, hardest workers. I don't know where they get the lazy Mexican thing from because they're anything but lazy. And more recently we had an influx of Somalians You know, Muslims, oh yay. This is where a lot of my diatribe against Islam comes. Not from ideology, not from theory, just from experience. I mean, really, seriously, experience trounces theory any day. That's where my sexism comes from. That's where my racism comes from. That's where all of that stuff. Ideologically, I love everybody. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate any people group. I just know that some people are assholes and some people are more useless than others. It's a simple matter of recognizing reality. And I see these people that came to Lewiston are mostly drug dealers. They're violent. They don't take care of their kids, even though they pump them out one a year. I mean, they have 5, 6 kids a family. They're all on the state. Now, you tell me, would you really blame a white guy for hating black people if Lewiston was all he knew all his whole life?
You talking about Somalis?
Well, not just Somalis, just black people in general. Most of the black people that have come to Lewiston from various different places,
I don't know
they tend to be.
Again, I don't know what
What's that?
background they came from. I don't know what background they came from.
Okay, yes, we're enlightened. Okay, I know this. We both understand that culture has a lot more to do with this than we realize. However, we're talking about just regular, ordinary people who don't trouble themselves with thinking about these more head in the cloud issues in life, these more philosophical things. They're just reacting according to their experience. And their experience is every black person that they've ever met has screwed them over in some way, or they've done a crappy job at work, or something like that. You know, maybe, just maybe, and this actually happened to a good friend of mine. He was very racist. Maybe they actually meet a really cool black guy, and they hit it off. He hit it off, and he's like, oh, wow. Like, maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe it's where they come from, not so much color of the skin, you know, stuff like that. They're complicated issues. But what I'm saying is, would you blame the dude for being racist? Would you? Isn't it reasonable at that point? Isn't racism reasonable with that limited frame of reference?
It's based on fear, though. Racism is based on fear. It's fear of the other. It's
Dude,
fear
I know.
of
We are the wonderful, enlightened ones, but what about those who aren't?
Do I blame him? Maybe I don't blame him, but I don't agree with him. I don't like pat him on the back and say you're doing a good job at this living this way and having these views.
Yep. Yep, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, that's spot on right there. I would seek to enlighten him. I would seek to educate him, and I have with many friends of mine. This is why I love having conversations. You guys think that I'm like all trying to bring you toward the libertarian side. You don't realize most of my preaching is done to my own side. It's friendly fire all the way with me. So I mean, I'm an equal opportunity offender. I think everyone's wrong. I really do. I believe everyone's wrong because everyone thinks that they're going to settle at a solution. And those of us who have really endeavored to build something in life and struggled for years and years and years to reach that plateau, that sincere effort begets wisdom. And you know what that wisdom tells me?
What?
The battle's never done. The battle's never done. We always want to just reach this point where we can retire, where we can sit back and relax. That's when we start dying, dude. That's when we're like, our goose is cooked. You know, we need to realize
Struggle all the time.
Life doesn't get easier. What's that?
We need to struggle all the time.
Yeah. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to be a struggle. What it has to be is it has to be intentional, and it has to be with a purpose. Because as we get older, life does not get easier, nor do the challenges become simpler. We become stronger and smarter. And so the effort remains constant, but the accomplishment grows, and we do greater and greater things. That's the mindset that we should have, instead of this, I'm just working for my Sabbath, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Just an opinion, something to chew on. You've been you kind of withdrawn today, you know. You kind of considering things.
Want me to get swinging my fist? Is that what you do? Is a swinging fist?
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
into this.
not, dude. You like
I was,
when
I
I
was
don't.
going out with a discussion with Justin.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see him tweak on you like that. I think he's just he's been confronted with a lot of these issues that hit close to home for him, you know, because he's really passionate about liberty and about self determination and all that stuff. And it's just these last few threads we've had this past week have really hit hard. They've just really, it's scary. Just to give you a brief explanation of why it's scary is because in mine and Justin's world, you might have to deal with people being mean to you to a degree, but by and large, not only would you be physically safe and you would have birds of a feather to flock with to go do your thing with them, but you would be free to defend yourself by whatever means you saw necessary. Now, in the sheerly collectivist world, that Craig, and to be fair, I am going to offer to have a conversation with him. I'm not just going to sit here and trash him on the public airwaves and not give him an opportunity to engage me on it. Okay, I will do that. That was outside the scope of here or now. But what he is trying to assert, the world that will lead to is a world in which your 90-year-old grandmother can be put in a prison just because she doesn't believe that she should participate in something that she sees as a desecration to the image of God. I mean, it blows my mind that people don't see how horrible that idea is. Where what we're talking about on one end is people having to fight for acceptance in society, which has been the rule from day one. On the other hand, what we're talking about is a tyranny to the point where we will take everything from a person if they don't play ball like we want them to. That's terrifying, dude.
But is the solution partially, like what you said earlier, like education, like educating these people into what, like they're not going to go to hell if they bake a cake for a gay person, or if they accidentally shake hands at one, even, if they're friends with one.
I guess I just that's a noble goal. It just can't be accomplished with legislation, because all legislation does, it actually does the opposite. You know, when you force people to do something, inside they resist that much more. You know,
I
it's
might
that
seem like a huge,
internal versus the external. And what's that?
I might seem like a huge fan of government, but I'm not really a huge fan of government. I see its negative
Oh, I know
consequences.
this. I know, and I don't think that. I think that you're just struggling with. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, it's okay. Continue.
Sorry. I'm not trying to talk over you. It's the delay that keeps
Hey, yeah.
confusing me. But yeah, I know where you're coming from, and we actually share very, very similar concerns. Very, very similar concerns, if not exactly the same concerns. I just think that sometimes I see, okay, like say for instance, my son, every day he goes to school, he leaves his gloves at school. So my solution to keep him from leaving his gloves at school is to sew his gloves to his jacket. That's an example of, well, yeah, I solved the problem. He's not going to forget the gloves at school anymore, but how is he going to use his fingers? I mean, mittens would probably be a better example. How is he going to use his fingers? How is he going to take off his gloves to zip up his jacket? You know, how is he going to do anything? That's an example of the solution creating more problems than it solves.
Yeah.
And that's why my natural skepticism, I think, really stirs me in these discourses, because I'm not trying to be a contrarian. I'm trying to test things to see, I guess you'd call it argumentum ad absurdum, where you take something to its logical conclusion and you try to play it out to the point where you see the most extreme consequence. And it can be very easily confused with the slippery slope fallacy. The difference between argument ad absurdum is we're talking about necessary consequences, whereas with the slippery slope fallacy, we're talking about perceived likelihoods. For example, the slippery slope fallacy was employed a lot with the gay marriage debate, saying that, well, soon people are going to be wanting to marry their dogs and marry their kids and things like that. That is an example of the slippery slope fallacy, but just because something is a fallacy doesn't mean it's not true, as we are seeing today. I mean, polygamy is gaining an upswing. Polyamory has been around and gaining popularity for the past 2 decades. And I'm not going to go down the list of freak shows that I've been seeing online. All I know is that
Those aren't
it's like
necessarily, aren't they valid ways of living as well, though?
what do you mean
Polyamory.
by valid? I mean, do they have a right to live that way? Of course, absolutely, of course, absolutely. Is it good and beneficial for them or society? I would say most likely no for them, and most certainly no for society. And the reason why I say only most likely no for them is because sometimes people get to the point where they're so twisted that trying to live a normal life is even more destructive than shunning your perversion. You know what I mean?
I don't
Dude, I
necessarily.
got perversions too. Don't think I'm not casting stones. Okay, let me think of a good example. Something really embarrassing. Oh yeah, dude. I don't know why, but like, Michelle's gonna get so pissed at me. I love smelling girls' armpits. Okay, now I don't think that that's normal. I don't think that I should. Okay, I don't think that that's like quite right. But it's harmless. It doesn't bother anyone.
Probably
But
the
I'm still gonna
pheromones.
say, well, it's kind of weird, you know.
Pheromones.
Well, it's an aberration. It's an aberration. Well, okay, but you know, if you're raised in a healthy, controlled environment with the proper liberties, these aberrations don't tend to happen. I mean, what the common thing that I say is in almost every homosexual, almost every trans person, something went wrong somewhere along the way. Not necessarily intentionally, not necessarily that they were victimized or that they made this choice for evil, or just something happened that shouldn't happen, that skewed something inside of them. And the
I
only
see
reason why I
them
come to
being
this
born
conclusion,
that way. I see that as being
no,
them
I
being
don't think
born that
so.
way. I know you don't think so. I know you. If you want to have another debate, you get me going in.
Well, can you repeat that? You were cutting in and out.
If you want me to be more active in this debate, then you have a debate on homosexuality or trans people, but.
Well, and really that is kind of key, and I understand that that's the reason why that's probably the one biggest gulf between yours and mine view is I look at this genetically, I look at this physiologically, I look at it psychologically, and the conclusion I'm left with is homosexuality is very, very easy to understand. It doesn't present a lot of big mysteries to me if you're not afraid of hard truths. It's when it starts saying things that you don't like to hear that it becomes a bit amorphous. But ultimately speaking, I mean, I think, number one, when I'm talking about homosexuality, I'm primarily speaking about gay men. You understand that, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Sure, I agree.
Because, like, my view on lesbian. Yeah, my view on lesbianism is a lot like my view on masculinity versus femininity. That men have a more specific role than women do, so women have a lot more freedom in their more generalized gender identity. But as far as like what makes a gay man, almost like in probably I want to say 3/4 of the cases, you have these common factors. A, severe estrangement from the father. Not necessarily because of gay tendencies, but because the father's an abusive prick. Usually in these occasions, the father's abusive towards the wife too. In fact, almost always. The estrangement is between a weak-willed woman and an overbearing man, and an estrangement from identification with masculinity in general, having it mislabeled as this overbearing, abusive thing rather than the firm leadership thing that it's supposed to be. Second thing that they have in common, the mother. They are far too coddled and close. The mother holds on to him for too long, and they have an abnormally close relationship into even puberty, where the child begins to, rather than self-identify with the father, they more self-identify with the mother and subsume into her particular distinctives. And this very much explains why you see among a lot of gay men a hyper-exaggerated form of femininity. They're more girly than girls are. Why is this?
Sometimes,
Well,
yeah.
it's because it's a it's a mask. It's not a mask for their face, it's not a mask for their feelings. It's a mask for their identity, because they don't feel accepted as a man, but they identify with the feminine.
You need to bring a gay person on here to debate with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I would love to. As long like I could think of probably who am I thinking of? If I can get Jesse Carlson on the show. It's been a long
I
time
don't
since
know.
I've talked to him on Facebook, but I remember he was one of those gay advocates. There was that one dude, Gay Christian GC. I think his account got ixnayed, but he made a lot of good arguments, and I'd love to have him on the show too. Because the last thing I want to do is cisplain. I made that term up. You know, you got mansplaining and whitesplaining. Well,
I know, yeah.
cisplaining. So, yeah, I don't want to
Well,
be
there's
guilty of
more
cisplaining and all
heterosplaining.
that stuff. I honestly want to understand. Oh, okay, heterosplaining, whatever. I say cis because it's talked about the agreement between gender and sex. But so I do want to understand, and I believe that I've come to an understanding, but I am open to correction as well.
Okay.
Well, I guess I get a lot of chaos in the background, so I guess this would probably be a good point to bring the show to a close. But we can do another show again this week sometime if you get some things that come to mind that you want
I'll get into
to
another
get
fist
into
fight.
discussion, and we got to get Jersten on the show.
I'll get into another fist fight with Justin. We'll see if we get
Which
any more.
yeah, we got to get good old Jersten on the show. And another guy I want, it's too bad he's so friggin' busy, but Vincent. Not you, Vincent, but McCoy,
Yeah.
Justinigus McCoy.
I don't think he'd agree with
He's
me.
probably one of. I think you'd be surprised, but he's probably one of the most well thought out people I've come across on Facebook. It's very rare you find someone who has a super consistent philosophy and they know how to articulate it concisely. He's a dude that I really want to get on the show to talk about this specific thing, because he didn't want to engage a lot in that thread last night because he felt it was beneath him. And to be honest with you, I agree with him. It's why have a dialogue with a person who's that obtuse? It doesn't get anywhere. But all right, you have any last words?
No last words.
All right. Well, it has been a pleasure speaking with you and having this discussion, and I hope that sometime in the near future we'll do it again. And for everyone out there, I'd love to field a bunch of questions in the comments, and I'm sure I got a bunch of friends who will answer the ones that I can't. So thank you very much for joining us, and yeah, I'm not even bothered with the peace out Boy Scout thing again. That's getting tired. I'm not going to make fun of the silly little weird ones. All I'm going to say is stay nasty. Oh, crap. I'm supposed to be able to, like, kill it right off when I say that. I didn't have the screen up. Now I got to say something else. Not stay nasty. Get your freak on!